Welcome to this week's episode of the Retirement Readiness podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about retirement hobbies and activities.
Hey, Katie.
As always, we have Tim Reagan, the founder here at Prairie View, and I'm Katie Umland, the head of marketing here. Okay, so a little bit better of a topic than some of our previous.
Yeah, I think the last time we were on, we were talking about what happens if your spouse dies.
Death.
So yeah. So hopefully this will be much more fun and that kind of stuff, right?
We just kind of wanted to take some time and talk about the importance of why you would want to have some hobbies and activities in retirement, how that can affect your life, and really finding purpose in retirement.
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny when you think about retirement, a lot of times it depends on who you talk to. There are people that picture themselves sitting on the rocking chair on the front porch and kind of really doing nothing. And then there are people like, man, I can't wait to retire because I have this whole list of things to do. And really, I was recently reading a book that was outstanding, and it phrased it in a way that I thought was unique or a little bit different. And it talked about the difference between lifespan and health span, and those two things can be very different. And so when you start thinking about that, medicine today has done a really good job of getting us to live a long time, but sometimes the last decade is kind of a missed decade because really we see a lot of things starting to decline a little
Unravel.
bit. Yeah. And so what we found is that many times for those people that when they retire, that find a hobby, that get into some other things, really extend their health span beyond what maybe they normally would have if they become a little more sedentary and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it is a huge topic, and it's fun. It's something that it's like, now I've got this free time. I get to do all this fun stuff. But sometimes it's overwhelming too. So,
and just being purposeful, like you don't want to waste all your kind of active years thinking like, oh, great, let's sit on the beach every day. And then you're like, oh, wait, I also wanted to climb that mountain.
Yeah. No, exactly.
But shoot, now I'm 75 rather than 65.
Yeah. Things look different now. Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing is that the analogy I always think about is I think about like 5-year-old Timmy. If at 5 years old, I'm given $20 and we go into Walmart and my mom says, here's $20, go buy whatever you want with your $20.
You're there for 3 hours
and I'm miserable and I have found nothing, right? Versus if my mom says, here's $20 and here's this section of the store, find something in this section. I will find something and I'll be thrilled with it and I'll be excited about it. And so sometimes when people hit retirement, I think really that can happen and I can get paralyzed and I can think,
I have too much I want to do. I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start and all that kind of stuff. And so really some of this goes to helping to develop a plan on the way into retirement. So you can think, okay, here's what I'm going to do. It doesn't have to be obviously a plan scheduled out like you when you were working, but to have some idea, like maybe it is, you know what, for the first month, I ain't doing nothing. I am not getting out of bed before 10 or whatever. And
then you suddenly can't sleep past 4:30.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang it.
And so it can be, but then you say, but then after that, here are the things, or here's how I'm going to attack this and what I'm going to try to do.
Well, it's kind of funny when we were preparing for this episode, I was thinking about how, I'm having my second child in September and how my life will just kind of change a little bit and maybe not so work focused, more mom focused at home. And I was thinking it is kind of similar in some ways to retirement and planning a purposeful motherhood or, stay at home mom life. Like, what do I want that to look like? Do I want to just stay home all day with the kids, or do I want to have 10 activities planned every day? Do I want to have swim lessons? Do I want to, it's kind of like.
And it goes both ways, right? So, because you have to be thinking, in your case, you have to be thinking both about your own personal development, your own personal fulfillment, but also then what am I going to introduce into our schedule that is going to fulfill the kids and help them to develop and grow and have different experiences and, the experiences that I want them to have to turn out to be the people I want them to be.
And also similarly, okay, I'm potentially exiting the workforce, at least in some capacity. So there goes a whole chunk of people.
Your whole social
see every day. So I'm not commuting. I'm not going to the same lunch places every day that I would if I was working. So there goes a whole nother chunk of people. So it's kind of learning how to make friends again.
Well,
in
and
this new
it's kind of
stage.
funny that you say that because, I think back to when our kids were little and I'd come home and Sarah would be like, I'm ready for adult talk,
Yeah.
type of a thing. Because to your point, your social aspect changes. And that's exactly what happens in retirement. You go from having the social network that is kind of built in to now you have to recreate those. And as good of friends as you are at work when you're working, it's kind of built in that you're good friends because you see each other every day for a good chunk of the day, where now all of a sudden I have to remember, be intentional about reaching out to Tommy or Sally or whomever to go to lunch and do those things.
And they potentially might not be retired.
Exactly.
Yet.
Yeah.
And so now you suddenly don't have the same things to complain about
Yeah.
together, or you don't, they're working and you're free for lunch. So that's kind of figuring those relationships out and making new ones and feeling maybe some sort of loss at that beginning of retirement.
And a lot of that, we would suggest that as you look for those hobbies, it's easy a lot of times to think, I'm going to garden, I'm going to read, those are all individual types of things. And so from the social perspective, many times we would encourage people, look to see what is the park district offering maybe that you didn't have time to do before, where now you're coming together with another group of people and maybe you have some of that social
playing
aspect.
Pickleball. Everybody wants to play pickleball.
Everybody. Yeah. How about it? I had to Google that the other day because I'm like, what is pickleball? Like I'm picturing it, nothing what I pictured. So that
has really taken off.
It has. Yeah. Big time. And so it's really looking to say, of these hobbies and of the things I want to do, how do I have the balance of some of the things that I'll do on my own, but how do I also find that social network, especially for people who aren't joiners, who, that's just not part of their personality. Sometimes forcing myself to become a joiner. It could just be Bible study at church, but something that gets me in with other people. Otherwise it could be kind of isolating. And
well, I think about our mom a lot. With that, like
our mom,
because we're brother
and sister. Yeah. Just so people aren't like, wait, try to follow this in case they don't know.
Our podcast producer was like, maybe you guys should like tell them that you're brother
and sister sometimes.
We'll just drop that in.
Yeah.
But I think about mom after dad passed away, and she kind of lost her safety blanket going to events.
Oh, for sure.
So it was really hard for her to go to even things she had to, like a wake or a funeral, or going to even church at first was like, I don't know how to do any of this by myself. Or even just if your spouse doesn't even pass away, but just things are different.
They are way different. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I thought that one of the things that she did that I was super proud of her for is she kind of had a thing where she wanted to do all of her firsts in the first.
Yeah.
Do her first time going to church alone, first time, in the first year of
just get it over, rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that when you look at the retirement picture, a lot of it is similar, where if you don't start out of the gate doing things, it only becomes harder, right? If you're a little intimidated to show up to the first
gym class,
exactly, at Orange Theory or gym, wherever you're going, it's only going to become harder, and you only have more of an excuse not to do it in the future. And so our encouragement is kind of come up with a game plan right out of the gate that says, here's what I want to work on. And one of the things that we think is really helpful for that health span is when we have people when they retire that kind of carve out and say, you know what, I'm going to learn one thing new every year. Maybe this year I'm going to learn how to play the guitar, or maybe this year I'm going to take an art class or whatever. And maybe those things aren't your thing. Maybe it is, I'm going to go to take a business class because I always wanted to understand how something works inside the business world at the local junior college. But, things that are going to continue to let your mind grow along with just things that are fun to do, like playing with grandkids and that stuff.
Well, and that kind of opens yourself up for a more social network too, like joining a gym or taking a class, like you're suddenly around people again also. Yep. And I think that can, it's kind of, any habit is hard to break. If you are kind of hermity and stay home, that's way harder after a year to 100% to break out. If you order dinner every night, that's way harder after a year to break and start making dinner again. Yeah. So it's kind of
it goes hand in hand. No, absolutely. And that's not saying change who you are. For me, I love to read. I read every night. I could probably, if I retired, I could probably spend half of my day doing things that were just to me, whether it be reading, writing, doing those kinds of things. But so I don't need to stop that, but I do need to introduce and say, okay, now go do something that is tough or outside of your comfort zone, that's going to have you grow. Because if what we find is that, as people retire, if they start living their lives looking backwards, that starts to be kind of a downward spiral with being vibrant and active and those things. If they live their lives looking forward and saying, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to be a part of tomorrow? How am I going to enjoy tomorrow? Those things. Or 5 years from now, hey, I'm looking forward. I want to take my grandkids when they get old enough to Disney. But they're not going to be old enough for 5 years. But let's start planning now or thinking about it now. Being that future minded versus history minded really helps for people to have that longer health span, not just lifespan.
Well, and like you said, that's perfectly okay if that's what you are intentionally wanting from your life.
Yep.
If you're intentionally saying, hey, I spent 40 years working very hard. I want to just sit on my couch all day.
Yep.
For, maybe that's not so healthy with the health span. But if your plan is I want to stay home all day. I don't really want to see people. I was client service for 40 years. I don't really want to talk to people. That's perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
If that's what your intentional
but don't let it just happen, right?
Yes. You don't want to be stuck in a rut. It's, you want to choose that. And I just think that's so exciting. I have to I'm obviously not retired, but I have to actively remind myself that you get to choose the life you want. Absolutely. And I think that is so exciting. Design the life you want even before retirement.
Yeah, 100%. We think that a lot, and I think what happens is, as people, we get put into these boxes of how things always have been, or what I think is okay, or whatever. And
or what everybody else says I should do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of times if I take a step back and I think about, what would I really want? What would I really desire? And all those things that people say, well, when I retire, I'm gonna, why not say tomorrow I'm gonna, and a lot of times you can find ways to have that intentional life. And the way that we picture it, and what we would like to help people to do is really kind of say, what life do I think God created me to live? And then how do I put that into action in my everyday choices? And sometimes we talked about climbing the mountain, a lot of times being intentional with that means recognizing, hey, I'm much more fit at 65 than I'm going to be at 85. And so all these things that are on my list, let me try to do them and front load those in the beginning part of my retirement, when I can be active and more likely to be able to physically do them.
Yeah. Even just, hey, I have this goal of running a marathon. Well, I can only run a 5K at this point. So what?
I'm thinking about walking a 5K, right?
We were just talking about that this weekend, that everybody says, oh, I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to run a 5K. You mean slow jog?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody is really running.
Yeah.
Well, at least maybe not people in my life. Well, maybe Sarah. I guess Sarah runs.
We've got, and that's the thing that is so crazy, because I think about those things, and now at 45, my picture, I can picture retirement and picture playing catch with my grandkids like I did with my own children. I can picture getting on the floor and wrestling with them or playing with them. One of the things we always did at our house was I would throw the kids in the pool. They loved it. It was just. But then I'm like, oh, crud.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do that when I'm 70, then at 45, I better start making some changes so that I can do that at 70.
Okay, Timmy.
Here we go. Let's practice.
Have to keep throwing.
And so I think that some of those things, we can constantly be thinking about, when I get there. But really, it's kind of set yourself up so when you get there, you're prepared to do it. And some of that might even just be laying out, what do I think those things are going to be? And then again, laying out that timeline. Okay, for the first 6 weeks, I'm doing nothing but sitting around. But then I'm going to start looking for planning a vacation, or doing my gardening work, or planning, time out.
Especially having those conversations, if you have a spouse or with your kids or whatever that situation is, of what your expectations are. I tell Alex all the time, my husband, hey, look, when we're 65, I still expect to be good.
Yeah.
Like we're still doing lawn work together. So now that we're 31, like we have to, what changes are we making?
Yep.
Or how are we setting ourselves up now? Because I want you to do that with me.
Exactly.
And I don't want to I don't want to resent you for not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is that, that as you think about those things, it's never too late, but it's also never too early.
Right.
So what can happen many times is we see people that say, they use age as kind of an excuse, and it can work both ways. They can say, oh, well, I can't do that. I'm too young to do that. Nobody's going to ever listen to me. Or they say it the opposite way, that would say, well, I can never do that. I'm too old. How can I ever start that? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we try to think about or say is, pick a time period. The next 5 years of your life are going to go by whether you want them to or not.
Yep.
So at the end of that 5-year period, do you want to be able to say, I'm a nurse, or I learned how to play the guitar, or whatever? Maybe I need to learn to play the guitar. I said that twice now.
Maybe you want to.
I tell you, but you get to say, where am I at the end of that time period? And you're never too old to do those things. And so don't let retirement be one of those things that you kind of say, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm past the time to do it. No, you think about, I'm going to live to be 85. If I'm 65, I still have almost 25% of my life left on this planet. Why would I cut that 25% short?
Why are we calling this the finish line?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, this one at least was a little bit more exciting than talking about some of our deathly episodes.
Or what happens in catastrophe or all that kind of stuff. And, just to give credit where credit's due, I mentioned that concept of lifespan and health span and that kind of stuff. There's a book out, it's called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. If anybody's looking for some science behind how do I increase health span versus lifespan, that's where that concept came from.
We'll link it in the show notes. How about that?
Yeah, for sure.
They can find it that
way. For sure. So hopefully,
if you ever need a book recommendation, Tim is definitely your guy. All the time he'll come in to work and have all these ideas, and then next week he'll read a different book and he comes in with a whole nother list of ideas. So
sometimes I think they think I'm like, I don't know, it has some sort of like short circuit in my brain or something, because I'm jumping all over the place.
That Amazon power buying books. So
yeah, for sure.
No, but before we wrap this up, do you have any final closing thoughts before we kind of send this to
retirement? Is an exciting time.
It's very exciting.
It is a time when you get to choose again, what life do you want to live and how do you want to spend your time. And so enjoy it, look forward to it, and embrace it. And if you have questions, or if you say, hey, I don't know how to do this, you can talk to your friends about it. Like I said, look at the local park district. Or as financial advisors, we see clients in retirement all the time. We get lots of ideas. Mm-hmm. We can probably spend a few minutes just asking you some questions about what you're into and things, and really help to develop some ideas. It doesn't have just money stuff we talk about. It can be all the fun stuff.
Maybe we should make a matchmaking app or something. Yeah,
for sure.
Match some retirees together for with similar interests.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we hope you found this episode valuable. If you did, please like and subscribe our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Until next time, we hope that you are well. Thank you.